At the time of filming this video, I'm 48 years old with 21 years spent in residential renovations and custom home building and almost 7 years coaching remodelers just like you across the country. What I've noticed is that most builders focus on the wrong things when it comes to estimating, like prioritizing speed, chasing flashy software, and obsessing over unit cost pricing like price per square foot. If I could go back and talk to my 20-year-old self, I'd tell him all that I know now, things that would save me years of frustration and lost profits to the tune of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've estimated over 1,000 projects, and in this video, I'm going to share with you the top 22 lessons I've learned over the years in estimating projects to ensure that you're profitable and you don't lose your shirt. All right, lesson 1, stop rushing. Let's start with the most common mistake that I see, which is rushing the estimate. You meet a client, they seem excited, and before you can even stop yourself, you blurt out, "I'll get the estimate to you tomorrow." Sound familiar? You just walked yourself into a trap, one that I call wagging it, because that estimate's just going to be a wild ass guess. Because that's what happens when you set unrealistic expectations right when you first meet a client. You rush, you skip the details, and you just guess at things that you should actually be confirming. And suddenly, your estimate is more like a dartboard with just some numbers on it. So here's the fix that I talk about. It's called spacing the goalposts. At the first meeting, don't promise next day numbers. Instead, align expectations early. Tell them what your process actually looks like. Because the right clients are going to respect that, and the wrong ones, you don't want them anyway. And by the way, this isn't just about the first version of the estimate that you send to them. It applies to every stage of estimating: ROM, SD, DD, and IFC. More on that later. Lesson 2, reframe the money talk. A long time ago, I learned that switching one word could actually flip the entire money conversation on its head. You see, most builders sit down with the client and start talking about budget. But the second you say budget, your client's head goes to, how do we cut this down and where can we save? And you've just turned yourself into a price tag. So the shift is, don't call it a budget, call it an investment level. Because investment makes them think about outcomes, priorities, what matters most to them. It shifts the conversation from cutting costs to making smarter decisions. Because you're not there to help them slash numbers, you're there to help them invest wisely. Lesson 3, and probably one of my favorites, charge for your estimates. Let's just rip the band-aid off right now, because this is what separates the amateurs from the pros. Most builders still do free estimates. Why is that? Because it's just how it's always been done, right? But here's the problem. Free estimating just trains your clients to see your expertise as worthless. You pour hours, if not days, into pricing with trades, assigning risk, and doing detailed breakdowns. And you just give that away for free? But the real problem is that when you give something away for free, people will value that accordingly. They'll just treat you as a price that they can go shop around, and they'll see you as interchangeable with another builder. But when you charge for estimates, now what you're saying is, this isn't a number I just pulled out of thin air. This is professional expertise built from experience, relationships, and a process. Look, you don't want price shoppers, you want people that are going to value the process. And the quickest way to filter those people out is to charge for your estimates. And this ties into what we just talked about. When you frame it as an investment and not a budget, clients already understand that this is a thoughtful, value-driven process. And charging for estimates reinforces that positioning. All right, lesson number 4. Estimating is a process, it is not a moment. A lot of builders will treat the estimate as a one and done scenario, as if you just crank it out and boom, you're done. But that's not how this works. You see, every estimate you create is simply just a snapshot in time. Think of it like checking the weather forecast. You pull it up today and it tells you what it knows at this current moment with the information it has. But that forecast just keeps shifting as new information comes in. Same with estimating. Scopes change, you start getting clarification on missing details, and trades start revising their numbers, and so on. And that's why estimating is a process. And when you approach it this way, you stop obsessing over getting it perfect in version 1. You open the door for productive conversations and adjustments with your clients. And you start to build trust and alignment with your client step by step as you go through the process, instead of just giving them one number and hope that they accept it. Lesson 5, discovery comes first. Early on in my career, I thought that estimating was just about getting the price right. After all, that's all that the client really cares about, right? But the more projects that I estimated, I realized I was missing a really critical piece: the relationship. Because most clients don't show up with perfect clarity on what they actually want. They show up with some ideas, maybe Pinterest boards, some dreams, and some nice to haves. And a hope that it all fits in some nice, neat little box that they can afford. But if you skip discovery, you skip where the trust actually gets built. Because discovery is when you slow down and have thoughtful conversations about what they need, what they want, and what might be nice to have if it fits within their budget. And this is why calling it an investment level, like we talked about a moment ago, is so critical, because it sets the tone for these conversations to happen right from the start. Because when reality bumps into the wish list, which it will, you're not negotiating from scratch. You're guiding them through choices that you've already talked about. No surprises and no lost trust. Discovery isn't a formality, it's the foundation that makes every other step of estimating work. Just before we continue, if you want to put the lessons that I'm sharing with you into practice really fast, then you might be interested in the project estimate template. It's automated to save you time and designed specifically for residential remodelers and custom home builders. The template is repeatable, so you can use it over and over again instead of starting from scratch. Plus, it automatically formats everything into a polished, client-facing proposal that you can share. It's built from over 1,000 projects that I've estimated, so it's battle-tested and ready for you to use. Check the link in the description to grab yours and start systematizing your estimating process today. Okay, lesson 6. Get a budget number from your client, because you can't aim at a target if you don't know where it is. And a lot of builders hesitate to ask for this up front. They're worried that it's going to scare your clients off. But the problem is, if you don't know what they expect to spend, then you're just guessing. So whether it's fixed cost or cost plus, you need a number to start with. Not because it locks you in, but it gives you a target to aim at. Even when the client says, we don't really have a budget, they do. Everyone has a number in their head, they're just nervous to tell you. But your job is to have the kind of conversation that makes them comfortable enough to share it. Because once you know where they want to land, you can properly guide and steer the conversation. Okay, based on your investment level, here's what's realistic. Here's where we may need to cut back, and here's where we might be able to stretch if the budget allows for it. Without that, you're walking in a dark room, searching for the light switch and making a bunch of assumptions. And you know what they say about assumptions? They make an ass out of you and me. Lesson 7. Start with a preliminary estimate. Early on, I would start diving into full takeoffs, calling up all my trades, and compiling this rock-solid estimate. Then I'd present it and realize we weren't even in the same ballpark. That's why you need to start with a preliminary estimate. At this stage, you're not trying to nail every stick of lumber. You're building a rough order of magnitude, something that's directional and says, if we approach the project like this is roughly the ballpark you're playing in. And that rough number becomes your first checkpoint. Are we even playing the same sport? And does that match their investment level? Because all of the discovery work that you've already done early in the process only matters if you can anchor to reality at this very moment. Because it's always better to catch this early before you spent days, if not weeks, estimating projects with full granularity. Once you get that alignment, now it's time to jump into more detailed takeoffs, trade partner bids, all of those sorts of things that are going to validate the estimate and bring you to the SD level, the schematic design estimate. So that's how you protect both your time and the trust with the client early in the process. Lesson 8. Know the margin that your business needs. A lot of builders lose money even before the job starts. First, they don't actually know the margin that they need to stay healthy. They price the job, throw a random markup on top, and hope that it works. And second, even if they do know the number, they often start to cave when sales pressure shows up. The client leans in and asks, "Can you sharpen your pencil?" Or the other contractor we're speaking to came in a bit lower. And suddenly, you're negotiating against yourself. But here's the real problem, because your overhead doesn't shrink just because you give them a discount. It's still sitting there. So every dollar that you shave off of your margin is just coming out of your net profit. So dropping your price is not smart business. It's fear disguised as strategy. Lesson 9. Don't use different markups. One of the things I see a ton of builders and remodelers do is play around with different markups. They'll mark materials up at one rate, labor will have no markup, and then they'll have cabinetry and windows at different markups as well. But the problem is those markups are usually just made up and not based on any actual valid math. So when the mix of materials or labor shifts, then the overall margin just gets thrown off. It's like trying to bake a cake when you're constantly changing the proportions of sugar, flour, and eggs. Sure, each layer might look okay on its own, but it starts to fall apart when you put it together. Because the more complicated you make your markup structure, the harder it is to figure out if you're actually earning the right margin to contribute to your overhead and net profit. One simple markup keeps it clean, because when the scope changes, you know that your margin is still in the exact same place. Lesson 10, one of my all-time favorites. You make your money when you estimate projects. There's an old saying in real estate that you make your money when you buy, not when you sell, because you can't change the location, the initial condition that you buy it in, and the potential that that property has. And the same thing goes in construction. You make your money when you estimate, not in the build, because once you break ground, you're locked in. If you miss scope, underpriced labor, or shaved your margin, that money money is gone. Estimating is where expectations are set, risk is flagged, and profit is protected. You're not going to magically find profit on the job site because you either built it into the estimate or you didn't. Because construction is simply executing the plan that you've priced, and your estimate determines whether or not you're going to make money. Lesson 11. You can't measure what you don't track. Estimating isn't a one-time skill. It's something that you get better at with feedback. And the only way to get that feedback is through job costing. Because without job costing, you're literally guessing. You build an estimate, hope it's close, and move on to the next one. But you never learned if your labor hours were actually accurate, or if your material allowance is held, or if you consistently are underbidding a specific trade. When you track your actual costs against your estimated costs, that's where the real improvement starts to happen. You catch where you underbid, you refine your numbers over time, and your future estimates get sharper and faster. Every job is giving you data. If you're not tracking it, you're throwing away valuable lessons that can make you a lot more money. Speaking of job costing and estimating, are you looking for an easier way to estimate your projects? BuildWise is made for remodelers and custom home builders who want to level up their estimating. It's an easy-to-use estimate builder based on my trusted spreadsheet templates. You can create estimates for fixed cost and cost-plus projects and have as many variations as you want within each project. And the best part is that it automatically formats it into a polished, professional proposal that you can send to your client. Clients can sign those proposals digitally from their laptop, their phone, or their tablet, speeding up approvals and keeping everything in one place. Approved estimates flow directly into your budget, giving you clear cost visibility and help you protect your margin. If you're ready to simplify your estimating and protect your profits, then click below to start your trial of BuildWise today. Okay, lesson 12. Clarify inclusions, exclusions, and unknowns. One of the fastest ways for a job to go sideways is, I thought that was included. Assumptions kill clarity. Because here's the thing, clients don't know what's normally included, and that's because they don't live in your world. And the same goes for designers. Sometimes they think something's included when it's actually not. This is why every version of your estimates, including the early ones, need to clarify what's included, what's not included, and what is unknown. It might feel like overkill, but it removes 90% of the "we thought" conversations downstream. And you're not just protecting yourself, you're actually protecting the relationship. Because remember what we said about assumptions. Lesson 13. Unit costing is a trap. Relying on shortcuts like square foot pricing can feel really efficient up front, but often backfires pretty hard. Here's why. Unit pricing rarely reflects the complexity of the work that you do, and remodels and renovations are full of variables that break those formulas. And most builders don't keep these prices up to date, so you're likely pricing with stale data. Because you're not selling spec houses, every project is custom, and every custom project needs stick building logic, where you literally build the estimate piece by piece. Because real estimating is not about speed, it's about accuracy, clarity, and confidence. Fast estimates lead to bad estimates, and bad estimates lead to lost profit. So stop chasing speed and start chasing accuracy. Lesson 14. Don't estimate based on what you think it's going to take. When I made the shift from being on the tools to estimating full-time, this one hit me hard. I'd sit there looking at a set of plans and think, oh, this is 2 or 3 weeks of framing. But here's the big lesson I had to learn. I'm not the one swinging the hammer anymore. And my guys, they didn't move like I did. They work at a different pace and they run into different issues. And sometimes trades just take longer than I'd ever think. Because if you price the work based on what you think it will take, you're pricing based on hope. And I always say, hope is not a strategy. You have to price the job based on how it will actually go and not how you hope it will go. And that's how you protect your margin before the job even starts. Lesson 15. You've got to remove your emotion from the pricing. This one also took me a very long time to learn, because you'd finish the estimate, look at the bottom number, and your stomach drops a bit, while you think, man, that just feels a bit high. So you start second guessing yourself. Maybe I should lower this cost a little bit, maybe round it down. I don't want to scare them off. But here's the problem. Just because it feels expensive doesn't mean it is expensive. The price represents the scope, the labor and materials it's going to take to do the job, and the margin that your business needs to be successful. Because when you let your emotions creep into pricing, you start discounting work that's been properly calculated. You're not helping your client by lowering down the number, you're quietly eating your profit before the job even starts. Just remember, the scope and the margin dictate the price, not your feelings about what feels high. You owe your clients accuracy and you owe your business protection. So stick to the facts when estimating. Lesson 16. Always get a second set of eyes when estimating. I don't care how good you are. If you've been sitting and staring at a spreadsheet for a number of hours, you're gonna miss something. The numbers start blurring together, you miss obvious gaps, and that's exactly where mistakes slip through. That's why I always got a second set of eyes on my estimates. because fresh eyes catch math errors, missed scope items, and formatting issues that quietly kill trust. And it's not just about the numbers, it's about professionalism. When a client sees a clean, error-free estimate, it reinforces that you've got your act together. If they spot typos, sloppy math, or missing pieces, even tiny ones, it plants doubt. It's one of the easiest ways to protect your margin and your reputation. Running a construction business can feel a lot like being stranded on an island, alone, confused, and not knowing where to turn next. If you're tired of guessing and want to stop leaving money on the table, then the Build and Profit Academy might be for you. It's the exact system that I use to build my business to 7-figure success, and it's helped hundreds of other remodelers and custom home builders across the country do exactly the same. You get step-by-step training covering estimating, financials, project management, team management, and much more. Plus, you get direct support from me to help you through the tough spots. When you join the Academy, you also get a free BuildWise account. That's the software I designed personally to keep builders' numbers tight and profitable. If you're ready to take control and build real profit, then click the link below and learn if the Build and Profit Academy is for you. Alright guys, we're in the home stretch here. Lesson 17, never send the estimate by email. When you email an estimate, you lose control of the conversation. The client opens it, reads the bottom number, and everything else they see is judged through that lens. They don't see the scope, they don't understand the reasoning, and they don't understand what's driving the price. All they think is, wow, that's higher than we thought. And now you're chasing the conversation instead of leading it. It's like going down 3-0 in a hockey game, and the entire game you're chasing the game. You're making plays that are uncharacteristic of things that you wouldn't normally do. So present your estimate live every time. It can be in person or even on a video call. That way you can lead them through the scope, the assumptions, the decisions that led to the price, and most importantly, the options they have if we need to make an adjustment. You control the narrative, you control the pacing, and you handle objections in real time. Email feels efficient, but you lose the chance to control the narrative. Lesson 18, bring options to the estimate meeting. Piggybacking on the last lesson, it's critical that you bring options to that same meeting because clients often never know what something's going to cost unless you actually show them. They might come in thinking they're getting X, Y, and Z, but once they see the full price, that conversation shifts. That's why I always bring options to the estimate meeting. I'll show them the full scope as requested, a few variations at different investment levels, and sometimes even a white box version which just shows them what it's going to cost for the base building component to get them to drywall. This does a few things. The first is that it keeps you in control. Second, it moves the conversation away from this is too expensive to which option suits us best. And third, it builds trust because you're helping them invest wisely. Think of it like building a menu. You're not changing the restaurant, you're just showing them different combinations that will fit their appetite and budget. Clients appreciate the flexibility and you stay in control in the conversation. Lesson 19. Don't let designers and homeowners supply their own finishes. This one happens all the time. Your clients ask, what if we just supply the tile? Can we purchase the plumbing fixtures ourselves? And you want to be accommodating, so you say, sure, that's fine. But here's what really happens. Scope gets blurry, warranty issues pop up, trades now are charging more because all the materials aren't on site when they're ready, and you're stuck coordinating something that you're not actually in control of. And I get it, because sometimes it feels like letting designers supply finishes helps build that relationship. But the problem is when the job doesn't go well, it actually hurts the relationship and your bottom line, because now you're responsible for someone else's mistakes. So keep the supply chain under your control. If it goes wrong, you know how to fix it. If it's out of your hands, you still own the problem, but you have no leverage because you don't protect the client or designer by giving them more control. You protect them by owning the whole scope and delivering a clean result. Lesson 20, only two things matter, scope and budget. Builders often get caught up in the noise, the pressure to close fast, the endless details, and all those distractions. But when you strip it all away, only two things matter in the estimating process, scope and budget. These two are inseparable because if the scope grows, like the client wants more bedrooms or fancier finishes or something like that, then the budget needs to raise to meet that scope. There's no way around it because you can't just cut your margin like we talked about earlier. On the flip side, if the budget is capped, whether it's the client's limit or the lender, your scope has to shrink to fit into it. You can't keep adding features without the money to pay for them because if you aren't aligned, everything's going to fall apart. Your estimate's going to miss the mark, trust is going to break down, and the costs are just going to spiral out of control. So lock down scope and budget fast. So talk to your clients early in the process about that relationship and make sure that they're working together and not against each other because everything else is just noise. Lesson 21, don't chase flashy software. There's no doubt that on-screen takeoff software is helpful. It can speed up measuring and organizing quantities, saving you time and reducing mistakes. AI tools like ChatGPT can also be helpful. They can help write scopes and client-facing content. Automated AI-based estimating can also process large amounts of data very efficiently, so they're great for number crunching and preliminary analysis. But here's the catch. None of these tools should ever replace how you actually sell jobs and build trust with your clients. Estimating is a process of conversations, discovery, relationship building, and guiding clients through trade-offs, things that AI software can't currently do for you. So use technology as a powerful assistant, but master your estimating process first. Let the tools help, but don't let them run the show. All right, guys, last lesson here, number 22. I saved the best for last. Be relentless about your process. By now, you've seen all the layers that build a solid estimating process. From setting realistic expectations, defining the right scope, charging for your expertise, and using discovery to build trust. Because estimating is not just about numbers. It's about relationships, clarity, and protecting your business. This is why you need a process, and you need to be relentless in following it. Every estimate is a chance to build trust, protect your margin, and win the right jobs. Treat it like the foundation of your business because it is. Keep learning, keep refining, and never settle for rushing or guessing. So be relentless about following your process and never let clients' impatience rush you into setting the wrong estimate. Because all the lessons that you just heard is not theory. They're the exact foundation that you need to build a business that lasts. They're the exact lessons I learned in 21 years of business and doing over 1,000 estimates. But here's the truth. None of this is going to work for you unless you actually implement it. It's just not enough to watch this video. You've got to apply these lessons, refine your process, and protect your business every single day. So if you're serious about leveling up your estimating process, I want to help you. Comment below with your biggest estimating challenges. And if you're ready to dive deeper, join us in the Build and Profit Academy, where we break down every component of what it means to run a profitable residential construction business. Because mastering estimating is critical to mastering your business, and I want to see you win. Don't leave money on the table. Don't settle for guesswork. Take full control of your business and your future. All right, guys, that's it for this video on the top estimating lessons to build a stronger construction business. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.